Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I got something really cool to look at today. This is a brand new 112 scale RC truck from Grozz Racing. This is the 903 Vanguard. Now, this is actually an HBX truck. If you don't know what HBX stands for, it's short for high boxing. They're a very large and really good RC car and truck seller, or manufacturer, I should say, out of China. But Grozz Racing is just the Amazon seller that's put their own branding on here, but this isn't high boxing. So just in case you're unfamiliar, that's why I'm telling you that up front here, that a lot of channels have just started reviewing this truck. I know my buddy Dave over at Perth West RC just got this in, and his is just the HBX version. So if you watch RC channels, you may have already seen this truck, but mine just happens to be from Grozz Racing off of Amazon. So let's just take a quick look here. The box is going to be pretty big to get into the field of view of the camera. Just kind of show you how it looks here if you get it in the mail. Looks really nice. It is, again, 112 scale, and it is 4-wheel drive, and it's a brush motor power, so it's not a brushless, but it looks really sharp. So let's go ahead, enough of that, let's open it up and get the truck out of here and take a look at it. First thing you're going to see here in the front is we got the instruction manual and the decals. So you can put the decals on, as the box suggests, or you can put them on however you want. But you got your decal for the front grille and lights, and then the Vanguard branding. So pretty nice that you can do the decals yourself, rather than sometimes when you get ones that come with them pre-applied out of the factory, they don't always do such a great job. So this way you can do it however you want, and then if you don't do it right, then it's on you for not putting the decals on right. And here is the truck. Packaged pretty similar to most of them. Almost all these cars now put these cardboard inserts over the wheels to sort of hold the truck in place. Actually, I'm going to move this over here, put those inside the box, and get the box off the table and out of the way. Here is the truck. Really sharp looking. I like this color scheme of this guy. Really cool. This looks a lot like, in terms of style wise, to my older HBX Ground Crusher. I forget the model number on that guy, but really similar, and not surprising, they're both HBX, but that was a 2-wheel drive and this is a 4-wheel drive, and this has more just neater accents. And HBX, the Ground Crusher, had a very narrow chassis. This one's a little bit wider than that one, but that was one of my favorite trucks. That's why I mentioned I really love that HBX Ground Crusher, so I know I'm going to like this one as well. Now they've added things since then, these little pull tabs, which I love on the body, to make it so much easier to take the body clips off of the truck. The tires seem like a nice rubber compound. Just by the sound, I don't think there's any foam in there, but that shouldn't be a big deal on something like this. This is not going to be super fast or anything. And I really like the look of these shocks, though. I can tell these are just friction shocks. These are not actually oil filled, but they have a really nice accents with the white springs and the blue style on there. So let's go ahead and take off the body, and we'll take a quick look at the actual body shell, and then we'll take a look at the truck, and of course the accessories and all that stuff that we have still in the cardboard over here. So here is the body, a little closer look at it. Of course, they're going to tell you to rip the film off, as all these come with that protective film. You can leave it on, but a few road rash and crashes and it's going to start ripping off. It will look much glossier if you remove that off, the film off, but you can certainly leave it on until it's ready to be pulled off. And here is the truck. This really nice looking truck. It's got some white LEDs here in the front bumper, and the bumper seems to be pretty nice. It's got a nice, absorption to it. You could say doesn't seem like it would bust easy, and it seems to be a nice compound plastic, not some cheap ABS plastic or anything like that. The dog bones feel like they are a composite, so they aren't metal. I can see the way they bend a little bit, but the pins on each side inside the cups here, those are actually metal. That's probably not a huge deal. Some of the early Tamiya cars I had plastic dog bones, and they were ABS plastic, and those did break easy. I don't think this is going to break real easy, but I would obviously rather it be metal, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. If it was, I'd let you know, but something like that should also be easy to get spare parts for. Again, here are those shocks, and I really like I like the white springs and just the whole look. And you can adjust this. You can screw this down or up to adjust. I believe you can. Yeah, to adjust tension on the shocks. That's pretty common on these. Here is the Velcro strap where the battery is going to go. We'll take a look at that in a moment. You've got your 390 brushed motor here, and it has these passive cooling fins. That's important because even though this is this is brushed, these brushed motors, all the motors brushless, they all get hot, but this brushed motor will get pretty warm, and they can really make a brush motor fail even more so than a brushless when it gets really hot. And this will really help keep cool. It feels like it's probably aluminum. The air can flow through here and carry the heat away. The heat will radiate up through those passive cooling fins. You've got your steering servo right here, and that is a 3-wire, which is really nice. Means if this servo would go bad or you break it, it's easy to find a replacement servo to put in here, and you don't have to go looking for one of those goofy 5-wire ones. So those 5-wire ones are, those are more for like your integrated ESC receiver ones that you typically see, and that's what this is too. It is an integrated one, but you just typically see them use those 5-wire ones, which are lower end servos, and they're definitely not as good. So here is this wire here running through here is for your LEDs on the front, and then here is that ESC. Again, it is a ESC and receiver combo, so it doesn't have an own independent receiver, but like I said, they usually do use the 5 wires. But it's nice to see the last few trucks that I've reviewed are HBX trucks, and they've been going to these 3 wires. And you got a little 2-pin wire here for your LEDs. They have another one next to it in case you want to add an additional lighting kit to this. You get your bullet connectors here. You go back to the brushed motor coming off there, and it uses a T-style Dean's plug, which is nice because that's very common. It's a good plug, and it's a plug that you can easily charge up your batteries on a hobby grade charger, not rely on some low-end USB charger, which I'm sure this is going to use for cost reasons. You got a plastic servo arm here coming off to the steering, but again, everything looks nice. It's fully proportional, so the throttle will be proportional as well. You've got differentials on the front and back. You always can tell that when you spin one wheel and the other wheel goes opposite direction, that is a differential gearing on this guy. So again, looks pretty nice. Obviously, I'd like oil-filled shocks, but at this price point, in the 120, 100, something like that range, it's not usually as common. But this would be very easy to upgrade to oil-filled shocks. I'm sure I'll mention that, as I always do, probably 10 times between this and the end of the drive review, because I'm obviously a big fan of oil-filled shocks. Let's see if we can get into the accessories here. So I'm going to pull out the controller. The foam on the wheel came off, but that's no big deal. If it slips, then you'd want to maybe put some glue or adhesive under it, but it doesn't seem like that's going to. We'll take a look at that controller here more closely here in a moment. Let's just go ahead and pull out the rest of the stuff inside the box, and that's everything. So they've given us 2 lithium-ion batteries, so it's not LiPos, but again, they have the Dean's plugs. These are 1500 milliamp hour. Of course, these are 2-cell lithium ions. And they give you a USB charger here, like I expected that they would. So it's going to be rather slow, but it'll get the job done. It's just not going to be really quick. And it may not be quite as accurate as a computer style charger, the hobby grade ones. And then they give you some extra body clips. So it's nice that you get an extra battery, because this can cost you $8 to $10 minimum, probably more depending on where you order it from, for an extra lithium-ion battery. And then here is the controller we looked at just a moment ago, but not very closely. The foam grip is certainly nice. I always am a fan of foam grips because your fingers don't tend to slide as easily as a plastic wheel. And if you have any perspiration or anything like that in your fingers, if it's a hot day, the foam is going to absorb some of that sweat and prevent any slipping. And then you've just got 2 dials. You have your steering trim and your speed switch. So this is not this is more of a speed dual rates. By that it means you can turn it up or down. It's not really a throttle trim. So you'd want to go all the way to the right. This is actually turned down a bunch. So make sure you turn that all the way up, and the truck shouldn't creep forward because that's actually setting the speed rate, like a limiter on the ESC. So where it was set, this truck would not have been going full speed. And that can be deceptive in a review. I go, oh, this truck's not that fast, and then I forget that, hey, it was turned way down. And of course, your steering trim is, you know, your truck. All these trucks are need trimmed up to keep them going in a straight line. This is your steering reverse, and you shouldn't need to mess with that. That's basically if the servo was plugged in backwards. You know, then it would, you know, it would. If it's wired backwards, it would steer the wrong direction. You know, that was common years ago. You put something in, and it needed to be flipped to where it was going the correct direction. You'd flip the servo reversing and your power button. And it says, do not move the trigger before binding is fulfilled. What that's saying is don't do this while you're waiting for it to bind, because it'll bind within a second or two of power up. Because what that'll do is if you're turning this wheel and it binds, it's going to not know where neutral is or where the middle point is in the steering, and it's going to mess your steering servo up. And it takes 2 AA batteries. Very typical for the HBX. I've used this controller style, though not this specific one. It did have a plastic wheel. I've had no problems with the 2 AA batteries. It seems like it's low power, but they've worked better than some of the other ones. I had on my 16889, it came with a different style controller, and I had terrible range with it. But I thought, well, you might think that's the receiver in the car, but when I switched to one of these styles, which used the same protocol and binded to it, I had no range issues, and it only uses 2 AA batteries. So I think that's pretty much all of the stuff. Let's take a quick look at the instruction manual, and then we'll go on outside for the all-important drive review. So you can see the 14 and up, 903, 112 scale, just your basic instructions on how to do all the stuff that we just went over. How to steer it and all that stuff. How to install the headlights if you needed to. And I'm sure it's going to have some assembly, deassembly, assembly, or how you want to say it, like exploded view probably. Let's see if it has that. It's got your part list. So if you need to get a part for this, you're going to be able to find the number. And Hyboxing is really big. These spare parts should be available from, at the very least, Hyboxing themselves. But I would imagine Banggood. I don't know if they're going to be available on Amazon where this comes from right now. It may be eventually, because Grozz Racing again is just rebranding and reselling this HBX truck. And here's the exploded view. So even if it's not the greatest, these exploded views are important just so you could reassemble the truck if you had to take it apart to fix something. Or sometimes people like to take it apart just to clean the truck. And if you don't take photos, you're going to be, oh my God, how do I get it back together? Sometimes things are not going to make sense. All right, guys, I think that wraps up the table review now for the HBX Grozz Racing 903 brushed four-wheel drive truck. Let's get on outside now and for the all-important drive review. So be right back. Okay, guys, let's take the Grozz Racing HBX 903 Vanguard out for a test ride. And that's kind of a raw, wet day today. Pavement's a little wet, so that could affect the truck's traction a bit, but I'm not going to be able to take it into my typical location in the back and drive around because it's too muddy. So this won't be the most ideal drive review today. It's going to mostly be on the pavement. I'll go off-road in the grass some too. So I have to apologize. Just that Grozz is really wanting to get this reviewed, and they've been kind of pestering me to finish it up, and I'm going to try to do it today here. It's just not ideal, so it's just the best. You know, I've done reviews in the front before, but I like to take these trucks off-road as well. So let's go ahead and we'll put it down here and take it around and see how it does. Not too bad on the speed. Again, this is just a 390 brushed motor. It is four-wheel drive, so that's going to affect its speed a little bit too, compared to like a two-wheel drive version like the old Ground Crusher that I mentioned in the table review. Honestly, it doesn't seem like it's much different in speed. That Ground Crusher seemed like it was around the same. Usually when you're driving, more wheels, four-wheel drive compared to two, you're gonna affect the speed a little bit. It's definitely pulling to the right, I believe. I'm gonna try to trim it up here. Let's wait till that truck goes past. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Pretty quick actually for just a brushed truck. Pretty quick for a brushed truck running on just, you know, a 2S lithium ion pack. That's not bad at all. I mean, this is perfect for what it is. I mean, I think this is ideal. Don't need to have brushless all the time. Brushed motors are just fine. Especially if you're someone who's starting out, you don't need the fastest thing in the world. Because brush stuff is very reliable and it's been around. It's an older technology, but it's very proven technology. It's not nearly as complicated as brushless. And despite just having these friction shocks, I'm really not seeing any real big, you know, it's not super bouncy. Let's kind of take it up here and you guys can see those friction shocks are working really well. Occasionally you'll run across a truck or a car with friction shocks and they just work pretty good and you're like, well, heck, I don't know if it really needs oil fill. Like, you're always better to go oil fill, but I mean, I just don't really see it being like a huge need. I mean, this is working just fine. It seems well balanced. It's not, you know, some of the friction shocks would just, you know, be super balanced. And you can see it a bit there in the bed of the truck, and that would be cleared up a bit with oil fill, but it's not a big deal. Right there, you see how let me see if I can do that again. I heard it bottom out. Whoa. Listen for it to bottom out. Right there. Boom. See how that bottomed out right there? That's just from the friction shocks not dampening enough. Oil-filled shocks, if it's the right weight and the right tension on the springs as well, would probably prevent that. But again, otherwise than that, it's not real. I'm not really seeing anything that I'm overly concerned about. So not to dwell on the shocks, but I'm just saying that these are actually doing better than a lot of the friction shocks that I see. We got some donuts going there. That happens even with all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive like this, when the pavement's wet. Tires break loose from traction, and then they end up doing that. Oh, that's cool. It's almost like drifting. Yeah, this is a really nice RC truck. Let's take it off road a little bit and just take it from the grass so you can see its power, because driving on the pavement's not going to show you everything you need to know. Yeah, that's got nice power. That's really good for brush motor. This truck would be fantastic in, you know, a couple inches of light fluffy snow. I wish I haven't seen any snow. Heck, I haven't seen more than a few flurries this year so far here, but this would be perfect for that. It would fly right through it. Yeah, this is a nice truck, really nice. And that's kind of fun driving on the pavement like that and kind of letting the tires break loose a little bit. See, look at that. It's like almost like I'm drifting there. Yeah. Not bad at all. Again, just a little bottoming out. Some of those friction shocks just not able to, you know, absorb the impact all the way. You could, one thing I could try is on the rear of this truck, on the rear shocks, you've got those, you can turn those little, I guess you call it a dial, and you know, you're screwing the tension down on the spring. So if increasing the tension on those rear tires would help it bounce up quicker. and be stiffer, absorb the impact more, but it's going to also make the rear end bouncier. So you got to keep that in mind as well. So you got to find that fine line between not being too bouncy, but also keeping it from bottoming out a lot. Yeah, this is a nice truck. Again, this is the HBX 903. It is HBX is high boxing. Grozz Racing is just selling this truck now on Amazon. With the Grozz Racing on the box as well. But again, this is just a high boxing HBX for short. And I'm a huge fan of high boxing. Some of the very best budget RC you're going to buy. So I mean, I know Grozz has nothing to be bothered by. They've pretty much said, yeah, this is just an HBX. They know it, and they know that's a good quality. That's why it's no big deal to say, hey, this is not really, Grozz Racing is just an Amazon seller as far as I know. So, but if you're gonna rebrand this stuff on Amazon, HBX is one of the brands you want to rebrand. HBX and Zinlahong are both really good. Comes the school bus. All right, guys, I think that wraps up enough there. I mean, I can only do so much driving here on the street, and we got a lot of noise with the bus. Like till they go by if I can wrap this up. But yeah, I can only do so much driving around out front here before I'm gonna run out of places to drive. And again, I can't drive in the back because of the mud. It'll just be a mud pit for my, not so much a truck, but for me. So that wraps up the review of the Grozz Racing HBX 903 Vanguard. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. While you're at it, click that bell so you're notified every time that I do upload a new video. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.
The power of the dark side.